everyone. I'm super excited to be joining this summit today, and I'm going to be talking about SEO content mastery, how to write for users and optimize for Google. Before I get into the details of this presentation, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about me. So I'm an SEO content writer and a content strategist at my company, Keys&Copy, which is a content agency that helps mid-sized to enterprise level companies get more organic traffic and leads to their content. I also partner with SEO and marketing agencies on occasion who need to outsource content for their own clients. I'm a regular contributor to SEO industry publications like Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land, OnCrawl, and the SEMrush blog, and I like publishing lots of information about how to do SEO content writing specifically. I've worked with some of the biggest companies like Salesforce and FreshBooks, which has earned me a pretty good reputation creating high quality SEO content. So SEO copywriting is not a small topic. There is a lot involved in creating SEO-friendly content, but for the purposes of this presentation, I am offering my SEO Copywriting 101, where we'll be covering what is SEO copywriting, SEO copywriting on the rise, writing for users versus writing for Google, how to conduct keyword research for your content, how to format your SEO content, how to optimize your SEO content, and finally, how to sell SEO copy to clients. So first things first, what is SEO copywriting really? Well, SEO copywriting is the practice of writing content for the purpose of driving organic traffic from search engines. So Google is obviously the world's largest search engine, but there's other search engines like Bing that can also drive organic traffic to websites. Just publishing any old content on your website might not generate organic traffic because they're not optimized for the keywords that an audience might be looking for. So SEO copywriting is used to write content that's keyword optimized and formatted for Google's algorithm so it attracts users from search engines. So this includes content like blog articles, web pages, and service pages. Really any content that exists on a website that's capable of ranking in the organic search results. SEO copywriting is becoming pretty popular because brands are realizing that if they're going to bother creating content, they might as well create content that ranks in the search results and drives traffic. So SEO professionals spend about 55% of their time on content marketing. Obviously, creating content is super important to SEO professionals because they see the power of content when it comes to driving traffic and leads. And 93% of B2B, so business to business marketers, also do content marketing. So it seems like the majority of marketers are focusing to some degree on content marketing, and there is a heavy focus on SEO copywriting specifically because SEO content drives organic traffic and can increase conversions on that content. Your clients need it, you can charge for it, and you can easily track the return on their investment, which makes it easier for you to charge premium rates. Obviously, the main focus of this presentation is to talk about how to write for Google and for users, because there's this big misconception that SEO content writing is all about optimizing for search engines, and that's just not true. The truth is that Google is a search engine that wants users to continue using their platform. They want a high number of users, so they really have an incentive to show users the content that they're actually looking for. As long as users keep using Google and are able to find the content that they're looking for, then they'll keep coming back to Google time and time again. So as a content writer yourself, you'll want to write content for the user because this is naturally going to keep Google's algorithm happy because the algorithm is basically a way of assessing the user friendliness of your content. Basically, it imitates what a user might do when they're searching through content, looking for certain cues, so keywords in your content and stuff like that. Obviously, it can't 100% imitate what a user will experience when they're searching for content, but Google's algorithm tries its best to scan content and show the best content in the search results. So if you're writing content that appeals to your target audience, then you're more likely to draw in those users and increase conversions on your content. The trickiness is formatting your content so you also please Google's algorithm at the same time. So the first step in creating SEO content is conducting keyword research. Before you jump into any keyword research tool, you should brainstorm some possible terms that you would want your site or your client's site to rank for. So consider, what is your target audience searching for? Hypothetically, what topics would they be looking for in Google? What their intention is behind the search. So once you have a keyword in mind, what is it that they're expecting to find when they Google that term? Do these keywords actually make sense for the website? So you might come up with a keyword that has a decent search volume, but if it's not related to the kind of information that your website talks about, or your offer or your products, then it might not make sense to even target that on your website. Finally, you need to ask, will users find what they're looking for when I create this content? So if you're targeting a certain keyword and you're writing content about it, will users be satisfied when they read your content? So where this question comes into play is when you're writing content maybe on a topic that you don't know very much about, you could very easily deter users and website visitors because they're going to come across some, not super high quality content, and, maybe there's some topics that aren't worth writing about on your site. So these are kind of some higher level questions that you might want to ask before you even dive into keyword research tools. Now, of course, the next part is actually using keyword research tools. I recommend SEMrush or Ahrefs. Both of these have a very limited free version, but if you are going to be offering SEO copywriting services to clients, then I highly recommend getting a subscription of one or the other. I use SEMrush the most in my business. It has a lot of amazing data, but neither one of these tools are 100% accurate. So always keep that in mind. So once you have a list of terms that you think you want your website or your client's website to rank for, you'll use these keyword research tools to search for the keyword. Then you'll compare the search volume and competition level. So a lot of keywords will have very high search volume, so a high number of people searching for this keyword every month. But that doesn't mean it's the best keyword for your site, because it could be super duper competitive. And if you have a lot of competitors in your niche and you're a relatively small or new site, it might not be possible for you to actually rank for this term. So we're usually trying to find a combination of a keyword that has high search volume and low competition. But sometimes we meet kind of somewhere in the middle. Next, each of these tools will allow you to look for related keywords. So that way you can find keywords that you might not have thought of naturally, and you can add these to your list. You might want to target them on the same page, or you might, start brainstorming different types of content. And then you can do a competitor analysis, where you basically enter the domain of your competitor, so their site URL, into the tool, and these tools will generate a list of keywords that those sites are ranking for, and then you can consider whether you want to rank for those keywords on your own site. Then I recommend organizing your keywords sort of by category or by type. So if you kind of have a theme of your keywords, you usually want to kind of lump those together, which leads you into the next step of mapping those keywords to each page or post. Here's a screenshot of some results from SEMrush where I've done a search for digital marketing. I like using this example because it really speaks to a search intent. So the broad keyword of digital marketing, okay, that's awesome. Maybe you want to rank number one for that. But we'll see that the search volume is 49,000 searches per month, and the competition level is 0.47, which is pretty high, not astronomical. But if we did a Google search for this keyword, it's likely that we'll find tons and tons and tons of results, most likely from high authority sites. And so it might not make sense for our site to target something so broad and competitive. Now, the next one is digital marketing agency, which is a good keyword, but it might not be relevant to your site if you're not actually a digital marketing agency. So here we have a certain intent behind the search. So if someone's Googling digital marketing agency, they're more likely to be looking for an agency site or a service page, less likely a service page. But their intention is very different than if they were looking for what is digital marketing, which might be better suited to a blog article. So you can see that even though these keywords are in a similar category, there's a very different search intent behind them. And each of these could be mapped to a completely different page or article. So before I create SEO content for my clients, I usually create one of these sheets in Google Sheets where I map out the URLs. I note what page it is, what primary keyword I want to target on the page, the search volume and competition level for each, and then some secondary keywords, which are basically keywords that fall in the same category, but they aren't the main focus of the page. So if you'll glance here, each of these pages target a different keyword, and I tried to find the best keyword match for each of these pages so there's no overlap between the pages, and I lumped the secondary keywords in really nicely. So what we're trying to avoid here is having multiple pages ranking or competing for the same term, and just mapping it out like this makes it really easy to know which keywords you're optimizing a page for, which will come in handy later on when we're talking about formatting and optimizing your page. It can get super confusing if you're not sure what keyword you're targeting or you accidentally optimize multiple pages for the same term. So mapping it out like this is super helpful, and it can also be an easy upsell to your clients by offering them this as an SEO content plan. So once you have the target keywords and secondary keywords for your articles or your page, it's time to format your SEO content. So I don't recommend just writing your content and then plugging a bunch of keywords in there. It's just not going to work. This is the part that really has to do with formatting your content for Google's algorithm. It essentially makes it easier for Google to understand what your content is about, and it makes it easier for the user to scan the content and find what they're looking for. So this is basically an outline that's specific to SEO content writing. You might be able to find some templates and tools out there to help you do this. I highly recommend Surfer SEO, which again is a paid tool. So I use a combination of SEMrush and Surfer SEO primarily in my business. So if you're going to do SEO copywriting, I would highly recommend those two. But Surfer SEO can help you format your content by offering basically a layout for you to follow. I don't use that because I've been doing this for a while and can create sort of my own outlines. But if you're just getting started, or you just end up loving Surfer SEO, that can be a good route. So basically I start by searching for my target keyword in Google because I want to see what's already ranking for this keyword. And I'll click into the top ranking pages and articles to get an idea of how these articles are using keywords throughout their content, how they're using it in the headings, how they're formatting their content, what images they're using, stuff like that. I want to get a pretty good idea of what the top ranking articles have in common, and then also think about how I can make my content better. So you're comparing what your competitors are doing and then trying to strategize on how you can write better SEO content. I also start with writing the title tag and the meta description of the article. You can do these last if you want, but again, go to the organic search results and see which titles are being pulled in, and you'll get an idea of how to structure your title tags. Usually you want to use your primary keyword here. You don't have to use it verbatim, but try to get it as closely as possible and write a title that's going to entice users to click on it. Similar thing with a meta description. Google won't always pull in the meta description that you write, but it's best practice to try and include a primary or secondary keyword, or at least write a meta description that effectively describes what the page or the article is about. Then you'll write your H1 heading, which is the top heading that's shown on the actual page. Usually this is different than your title tag. I usually write my H1 to be a little bit more descriptive and longer. Sometimes it includes the main keyword and sometimes it doesn't, but basically it's a good spot to include a keyword and be a little bit more descriptive about what the page is about. Then you'll map out your H2 headings. So if you're creating any blog article outline, these will be the main headings that organize the sections of your article. Again, these are good places to include your primary and secondary keywords. It also is a way of organizing your content so it's easier for users to scan the content and find the information that they're looking for, which is essentially what Google's algorithm is trying to do too. So your H2s are super important in laying out your article. Again, I recommend looking at what's already ranking and seeing how your competitors are doing this, so you can include some of the sections that they might be using and then add some of your own. So you'll include your primary keywords in your H2s. Sometimes, if it works, do not shoehorn your keywords into as many places as possible. You want this to read naturally because, again, we're focusing on on the user first. So include your primary keywords throughout your article naturally, as well as some secondary keywords if you were able to find those. But if you're focused on value in your writing, then you'll naturally include some of these terms or similar terms that add context to your content. So an additional thing that you can do in formatting your content is to optimize for featured snippets. So sometimes you'll Google your primary keyword and there will be a little info box that pops up in Google. And basically this is a featured snippet where Google is structuring the content to make it more appealing to users. And if you're able to land a featured snippet, you are likely to get a lot of traffic from that. So usually these featured snippet headings are questions like, what is digital marketing? Where you will write a definition of digital marketing underneath that, and that can possibly be showcased in the search results. So that's kind of a bonus. I recommend Googling featured snippets if you're not sure what that is or how to optimize for those. And then finally, you're going to write the body content within your outline. So you're going to be focusing on value here. You're trying to split up chunks of content and make it easy for users to scan. And then of course, naturally include your keywords throughout your content. So here's an example of a very short outline that I wrote for SEO copywriting. I actually already wrote an article on this, but I just whipped up this outline. I have the title tag, which has the primary keyword, which in this case would be what is SEO copywriting? And then I added on beginner's guide to draw in some clicks for, beginners that are looking for more information on SEO copywriting. I wrote a short and sweet meta description, which also includes the focus keyword naturally, and sort of a call to action for people to learn more about how to optimize their content. So it effectively describes what the post will be about. My H1 heading also has SEO copywriting, which, in the short form is a focus keyword. And then I added what it is and why it matters. So it's a little bit more descriptive on what the post is about. I will, of course, have an introduction. Then I have what is SEO copywriting. So like I said, this could be a featured snippet opportunity because I know that if I Google this exact sentence, there will be a featured snippet. And if I write my own definition that's better than what's already ranking, it's possible that I could land that spot. I have organized some H2s for the main sections that I want to cover. Then I have some H3s for the subsections that I want to cover. And, for this article, I would probably add way more sections than this because it's going to be a pretty long article. But as you can see, I've structured my content ahead of actually writing the bulk of my content. And I've been able to include some of my main keywords in the headings already. So also don't forget to include internal links in your content. So once you've written the body of your content, you'll add links to other pages on your website to direct people to, of course, other pages. Also adding external links to reputable sources. So other websites that provide value to your users. I don't recommend linking out to your competitors because, then you're sending your traffic to their websites. Adding images, obviously users are going to want to see nice, high quality images. If you're able to create your own images or hire a graphic designer, that's even better, but royalty-free images work as well. Just don't pull them from, random places of the internet or else you will run into copyright issues. And then adding bulleted or numbered lists throughout your content will help you kind of organize your content and make it easier for readers to read. So since I am doing this presentation with slides, it's kind of hard for me to scroll through a blog article to show you what this actually looks like, but I have an example on my website at keys&copy.com. The article is what is SEO copywriting? Basically, I followed all of the steps that I just outlined previously to organize this content. I worked in the target keywords naturally. I was as concise as possible in, covering the topic. I was sure to explain complicated concepts to make it easier on the reader to understand. I used examples, screenshots, and images. I was sure to break up dense content. So, instead of having long paragraphs, I've broken them up into shorter sentences. And then finally, my focus was on creating content that was better than what was already ranking, which should always, always, always be the goal and when you're writing this content. So just to reiterate, your goal is to create content that's better than what's currently ranking for your target keyword. So always look to Google and see what's already ranking and consider how you can create content that's better than that. You want to provide more value than your competitors. That doesn't always mean longer content, but basically more high quality content, more well-researched content, something that's really going to appeal to your users because readers are going to read it all the way through. And this can send good indications to Google that your content is high quality. Include your target keywords and secondary keywords naturally. Don't try to shoehorn them in there. Obviously, with tools like Surfer SEO, which I mentioned earlier, it can help you format your content and include your keywords throughout your content, but don't try to force it in there if it doesn't make sense. It just is not a good experience for your users, and you kind of get into the keyword stuffing territory, and Google can kind of see you as trying to trick them into ranking your content. So it is a delicate balance there. And then finally, I recommend adding content upgrades and lead magnets to your content. So free ebooks, downloadables, checklists, stuff like that for readers to opt into. And I do also recommend upselling these to clients because then you can get users to opt in to lead magnets in your blog articles, and you can track that, as a conversion. And if you're helping your clients generate leads through their content, then it's easier to, justify the cost and even sell them on more content. So keep that in mind. How do you sell SEO copy to clients? Well, in all cases, I do recommend only selling SEO content to clients if you're fairly confident that you can create SEO content. So I suggest practicing on your own blog first or doing some content for free, so you are able to test out your approach and make sure it actually works. Otherwise, you might be charging your clients for, content that might not actually generate them results, which is bad for your credibility. Now, if you're onboarding a new client, you should ask them whether they actually need or want more organic traffic. They might be trying to, get traffic from social media, or they might have different goals altogether. Not every client wants or needs organic traffic. So you might not be able to necessarily sell SEO copy to everyone. So keep that in mind as well. Basically, you want to know, is their target audience actually using Google to find products or services like theirs? So a lot of businesses, like say coaches, their target audience might be on Instagram and they might not be searching for coaches in Google. So it might not make sense to create SEO content for them because their audience is just not searching there. So this is worth kind of brainstorming with your client to figure out where their primary audience is. Similarly, is there search volume behind their keywords? So maybe they think they want to get more organic traffic, but then when you start searching for the keywords that you think their site could rank for, you realize only a couple people search for this a month, or even no people search for these keywords. So if the search volume is just not there, that might not be able to justify the cost of SEO content, and it will be harder to sell that to them. Obviously, you want them to get a return on their investment, and so it's worth considering whether the search volume is actually there for them. And then, of course, is there an obvious ROI? SEO content can generate a lot of money, and it can also generate a lot of money for your clients, but it has to be for the right business and the right audience. So if it's hard for you to determine whether SEO content is actually going to pay off for your client, then it's going to be harder for you to sell them on that. So again, not every business is a good fit for SEO content. You need to consider whether their audience is searching in Google and whether there's actually volume behind the keywords that they could hypothetically rank for. Now, if you've decided that you can and want to sell SEO copy to your clients, I do recommend creating a sort of onboarding questionnaire to ask your clients more about their business, which is going to help you determine the right keywords for their site and create content that is tailored to their audience. So because this is something that comes up quite a bit, I wrote an entire article on it for Search Engine Journal, which is 10 questions to ask when onboarding a new SEO content client. You can look through that and basically copy that as your own questionnaire to send to clients. It will certainly help you find the right keywords and create content that's going to attract that traffic and the leads that they're looking for. So this is pretty much the tip of the iceberg when it comes to SEO copywriting. Most of what you will learn about SEO copywriting will come through experience, testing content and different techniques, and seeing whether your content actually ranks. So again, I recommend practicing on your own blog or doing some free content or low paid content for clients to test out your approach and to see if you can actually get results from your SEO content before you sell it to clients. There is no step-by-step process on how to do this exactly right because every audience and every website is a little bit different. So again, you're going to have to test different techniques and approaches and really see what works for your particular website or your client's particular website. What I do recommend though is searching for SEO best practices, which will help you kind of tick all of those boxes and make sure your content is optimized overall. And then you're going to test different approaches for each particular website. So you can follow those best practices as a guide and hopefully improve your content over time. So I do have some resources if you're really serious about learning SEO copywriting. I have my free SEO content roadmap, which is about a 30-page ebook on this exact process, but more in depth on how to conduct keyword research, format your content, and optimize your content. So I do recommend downloading that if you really want to dive deep into SEO copywriting. I also have my own Facebook group, which is Right to Rank, which is for SEO professionals and writers alike who want more information on how to write SEO-friendly, engaging content. I have my Keys&Copy blog where I regularly post articles and guides on how to write SEO content, how to improve your content marketing and stuff like that. And then finally, I have my YouTube channel where I publish videos every single week on SEO content writing and freelance writing in general. Thanks again for tuning in to this seminar. I hope you got lots of valuable information. Of course, if you have any questions about SEO copywriting or what it's like being an SEO content writer, feel free to email me. My email address is jessica@keysandcopy.com.